All right, guys. Still have some life in you, even though it's late and the bar is open.
Yes.
Woo! Seen this enough? My name is Nikolaj. I'm the co-founder of a company called Goodiebox. And for all the guys in here, it's a subscription service. Let's be honest, mainly directed to women, where you can subscribe for curated beauty products that is delivered to you every month. And when I was invited to talk here, and thank you for the invitation, I really gave it some thought about what is it that you haven't heard already, that has not been spoken about so much, that it's just boring reputation and you can't read on any other blog. And I think actually, you know, the branding element of growth hacking, which I think is maybe left a little bit out, and I can see at least in our own growth hacking teams, which is growing quite dramatically at the moment, we can see that that's a subject that we're spending quite a lot of time on. So these are the "Hey Mom, I made it" slides. We're going pretty well in Denmark. Still, their home market still doing very well. Again, we call it actually direct with consumers or customers. So we're a very co-creative brand, and luckily our customers, we actually call them members. They love us. And even though we're growing so dramatically, we actually kept that love. So that's really important. And this actually shows that we're becoming better and better at what we do. So when we go into a new country, we're actually outperforming the previous ones. And we're actually asking for a premium price of our product. So we must be doing something right. Yeah. We originally started out in Copenhagen. We're hitting soon. Actually, this is not even updated. 10 markets, going into Germany soon. And we're doing from an investing point of view, the triple, double, double, which you heard before maybe. We're at least on the triple, so we're tripling every year, and it looks like we're doing that again in 2018 to 19. And we are actually triple the number of employees in 2019, so now we're actually, I think we're closer to 125 now. This is hopefully like Sitecore, that will be the wet dream, but you can see until 2017, we organically grew the company, and then we actually got an investment, and then in the last 2 years we doubled. So that's pretty crazy. And obviously we want to share, that's the last one, I promise. So annual growth, 140% almost. And now to something more familiar. I'm sure you've seen this before, right? Yep. Somebody's nodding, that's great, all right. Obviously, this is the framework. I think you're already working, you all know this, and obviously, I think this is interesting from a prioritization point of view. There are a million other frameworks. We use this still because it actually gives us a good starting point. Everybody uses this instead of having 2,000 different ways of looking at that, and we're never going into actually discussing how our metrics doing because everybody read a new blog about a new way of doing it. We actually using this, everybody used that, so we say, okay, where is our problem? And then we go in and actually try to dissecate based on what's the performance of each market. I actually had the privilege of working with the high performance team in Procter & Gamble at some point, and they actually learned me this rule and said, like, in any company, when you start doing stuff, making sure that, and actually in Goodiebox, the activation and the acquisition, because we're B2C, is very, very close related, so we actually consider that as one. Spend 50% on that. Then you spend 30% on intakes or awareness-driven activities, and then 10% of retention referral. Of course, as a subscription business, that's not 100% accurate because as you grow, you will of course shift to retention. But I think this is really interesting because as from a conversion rate optimization point of view, this is where you should spend a lot of your time because this gives you an indication, do you have a product that's solid? Obviously down here, if you don't have any retention, even though it's a one-off company as e-commerce, there's a broken product market fit, right? Makes sense to everybody? Boring stuff? Oh, yeah, so actually what I should have said, the other one is like, is this enough, right? Because we can see in Goodiebox that we're actually hitting the glass ceiling the way that we do stuff. So again, about killing yourself, be your worst enemy, fire yourself, go outside, look at the company from a new perspective. We're trying to do that every day. Again, Jeff Bezos from Amazon, every day is day one. We really try to do that as well. And I think we can't just continue to do what we do right now because again, social media, the landscape is dramatically changing all the time. So we're very much trying to take the data-driven approach because we have that. We have the BI team, we had a data warehouse, we're actually been forerunners on some of that stuff. But we actually try to figure out the secret ingredients that can be difficult to find when you have traditional growth hacking approach to how things are going. Does that make sense? Because yeah, maybe you already heard about Kevin Robinson. There's a million other of these quotes, but basically it's about making sure that there's an emotional process, at least from a B2C point of view, when you're buying and making a decision, right? So even though we're growth hacking, making it a math exercise, please always remember that these are human beings. I think some of the other guys said it as well. And this slide is intended to make you more comfortable with that statement, and that's also about emotions. I don't know if you know about this, but this guy is pretty cool. Nobel Prize winner that built the system about system 1 and 2 thinking. Basically, 90% of the time, or even more, you're driving on autopilot. So everything that's gone on intuition, all those decisions where you think you're really thinking, you're not really thinking, you're driving on your intuition and your autopilot. And only when you have to make very complex matters and make sense of those, you're driving and shifting into this system 2, which also is considered the pilot. So that's when you're going from autopilot, you have to land the plane. This is where we're going into pilot. And a lot of the assumptions that we as a growth hacking team is making is basically based on the people being in this state, which they're not. They're cruising along. They don't give a fuck about beauty boxes until we come and actually try to make it worth their while. So how do we do that? Again, there are many different ways of doing that, but if we believe that a lot of this is built on emotions, this is actually quite an interesting framework to place upon your growth hacking team to consider. This is not about that, hey, it's no longer relevant to change the call to action button. That does not have to be red, it has to be green if you haven't read that blog already. 4 elements here. What is the goal? I think this is very important. I think this goes also if you're B2B. Again, we're talking about fixing the pain. What is really the pain? And for us, as a happiness company or a beauty company, that has been a long journey to figure out what that really is by interviewing, by getting feedback. And it was actually the customers that helped us understand that. And there's an old saying, again, you might have heard it before, people are not buying a 1/4 inch drill, they're buying a 1/4 inch hole in the wall to hang their picture on. This is pretty much figuring out what is it really that we're helping the customer do, right? The second one is, okay, if we figure out what that is, what are the motivational triggers that we can actually activate to make them make that leap of faith into whatever the product that you have? Are there anything that we can do in understanding, is this done from a promotional point of view? So this is something I want to gain, or is it from a preventional because I'm afraid of losing something else, right? Insurances pretty often down here in preventional, right? You know, Just Do It Nike that I had the pleasure working before, promotional. I'm gaining something by doing that. Does that make sense? And then down in the bottom here, are there any mental shortcuts that we can use in order to understand why people are doing and behaving in a certain way? For us, that means that we are actually not a beauty company seeking happiness. We see ourselves as a happiness company. We're actually a happiness company powered by beauty. And that understanding was significant in the way that we go across everything that we do, right? So we're not selling products, we're selling a box with an experience. Does that make sense? All right. So this was how we see ourselves as a product company, but actually what we want to be and how we see ourselves in the future is as a relational company. Much more happiness moments, and won't drag you all the theory that goes behind this, but this is a good thing because more happy moments is better than less happy moments. Yeah, make a note of that, right? This is the old, and let me try to explain how that actually then comes out to something that we changed, right? So this is actually not 100% accurate. We actually came with a traditional e-commerce website where it says, like, I can't remember how many, but there was a lot of different entry points up here. You know, menu, blah, 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 blah. There was, you know, I can't even remember. And then we had like, okay, this is the box we want to show the product right in the face, right? We had that for as long as I can remember until we did a very deep dive, both based on rules, what we thought and we can see out of Google Analytics, but also trying to take the same thing that these guys have talked about, taking clusters of data to see if there's anything that we're missing. Is there a customer journey that only 10 people took, but all 10 converted because they have found a secret path through the UX, right? And then, yeah, this is how it looked. So we thought that this was awesome. And then we figured out that the customer journey was screwed in every way because we're definitely not telling a story, and it was very confusing, and it was really bad. And we could, basically the customer journey went like this, and we're trying to understand why that was. And then we figured out, well, it's not only about selling a product, it's really about selling this emotional me time that we're actually delivering to people. So again, we're a happiness company, not a beauty company. And that made us change a lot of different things. So if we're really truly a happiness company, then what are the things that we should look at? And we did 3 conversion rate optimization projects right after each other. The first one was the one I just talked about, cleaning up. The second was changing a lot of the way that we tell the story and changing the approach to be more of an IKEA. This is the customer journey that we think that the customer should go based on all the interviews that we did and all the anthropological study that we're basically enriching our data with. And then in the end, we did a NL anthropology study that we basically put into the conversion rate and the copy that gave us another 25% uplift. I didn't think that was possible at all because we spent, 7 years perfecting the site, and then we did this, and we were able to increase this with some crazy numbers because we've basically been doing a poor job until that point. Yeah, so let me just try to show you very quickly. We're a happiness company, so we need more colors, all right? Things like that. Make it look nice. You can see the nice smiling shadow there in the bottom doing it that, and instead of the product, this was what we were beginning to show as people come in, right? Again, if this is a new member, it's a new visitor, it's an old visitor, having things that making sure that people smile. Actually, that picture there is not 100% on brand. Then going through here, again, very clarifying, saying, okay, what are the steps that our data shows that we should tell and show our members, the potential members before they reach the decision-making time? And this was basically what we came up with. Showing the product, seeing again, doing 1 million of hotjar recordings and figuring out what is actually going on. And then first at the bottom of the journey that normally takes 5 minutes or less, that's when we present the actual product, because this is now decision time instead of being the first image they see. The same thing we did with all the other initiatives that we do, focusing a lot more on the feeling that this creates instead of just specifically what is actually in this product that is obviously a golden ticket. Now I can't remember if this was the last one. No, it's not. This is the new market launch. But let me just try and extend what we did in terms of anthropology study, because this is really what blew my own mind in terms of holy shit, we've been going around and being absolutely not in the know for 7 years and believing that we thought that we actually knew our members. So we sat down and said, when we took the first market we went after, Denmark, was Holland, right? And we all learned that Dutch women are very much like Danish women. So we thought, well, we can copy paste, went out, and if you believe in crossing the chasm, we went after the early adapters and well, absolutely fine. And then we had to cross the chasm, was like, fuck, something is not 100% on tune here. Why is that? They're absolutely not like Danish women, or are they? So we deep dived into it and understood then, what does happiness even mean? Can we even use that word in Holland? Is that something that they understand? So even though we're not making anything different, we're not saying suddenly we're a different company. Oh, in Holland, we're not a happiness company. That is by no means the point. The point is the way that we're explaining these things, does that resonate with the people we're trying to tell that? So if I'm using a word you never heard about, that even if you heard it, it wouldn't resonate with you. If I'm trying to explain you the color black and you never seen it, how am I ever going to do that successfully? So we understood very quickly and very fast that the way to address Dutch women is completely different. So actually it shows out that they have an internal reciprocity system. So they can only allow themselves to do nice things when they've done something good. Danish women don't have that problem. So when we learned that was when we did the 25% increase, because we completely changed the tonality and the way that we approach that product. So we said, hey, you're doing great, because that's a massive, they're very, very modest people. Again, this is a general term. I'm sure there are others that doesn't fit the bill. But from a anthropological point of view, they're very modest people. They actually want to go around about and just do their business. And we wouldn't want to disturb them in that. So they're not necessarily aspirating for something big and coming out and I want to drive a Ferrari. That's not really their, as a general gender speaking, that's not their goal. They want to continue doing great stuff. So we had to say, but that's exactly where we come in. When you have done great stuff, you need to stop for fuel, and that's us, right? So we want to help you continue doing the good stuff that you do. Basically the same thing, but it was not the big, here we come with happiness in a box. It was more like down to earth and talking and explaining in a way that the Dutch women resonate with, that resonate with the Dutch women, okay? So it was not that we didn't make other growth hacking experiments that you all know and have done 1 million of, but we definitely laid over a much more human branding approach to what we're doing and understanding what does it mean when we change the word and why do we do it? Because I can definitely see, and again, we have a great growth hacking team, but I can definitely see, because a lot of the growth hackers have been taught that it's just the functionality of how many experiments do you do per time unit, then it's going to be fantastic. It's not. You have to factor in the branding, and is it on brand, and can we do some massive leaps in terms of performance if we think about how people are performing and how people are behaving. I think that's it, isn't it? Do I have more here? No. I think it's it. Yeah. Whoa. That was time. Woo!